Butcher. This is The Butcher's Bullshit, Volume 3. So I'm going to be talking about the weekend of November 12th. And as far as Michigan goes, got 3 events that I know of that look to be pretty big coming up. In Davison, Michigan, at the Stonegate Center, we've got the UFL run by Joe Shaw. It's my boy down there. Marlo Morgan's going to be announcing that, and Tony Hervey's going to be the referee down there. That's also a very special show. It's the 3rd benefit show that has been done in the last few years for Miss Emma Hudson. And what they usually do there is have a bone marrow drive. They're looking to help cure cancer. It's Cancer Beatdown. She's a wonderful girl, and she's been in every one, so that's a good thing. And such a good kid. And so if you're in the Flint area, right around Davison, that's at the Stonegate Center. Make sure you check that out. Those guys put on a good show. I know Big John Eubanks is helping them do some matchmaking for that as well. King of the Cage, going to have a Pro-Am show at Sault Ste. Marie. One of the big points of that show, with the rising welterweight prospect, Brett Spider Spardella. He's been fighting out of Mount Pleasant lately. Spider Submissions fight team. I'm doing a show for them December 10th. And he's going to be fighting Eddie Sanchez. And this could be a big win for him if he goes in there and does what he's supposed to do. And I'm going to be working somewhere else, but everybody will be up there supporting him. I'm sure he's got a big fan base. A good guy. Let's hope he gets the win versus Eddie Sanchez. Dirty Sanchez. Anyway, also Holshin Sewell. Those guys are always bring some fighters on the card. I think they got 4 guys on the card, and that should usually equal 4 wins for Holshin Sewell. And they're usually the winners at the end of the night too. I stayed up with those cats, and they know how to party. They have a good time, and they do it respectfully as well. So good guys. Also on the card, Mitch Freya is fighting Brian Bergen. So that should be a pretty big matchup. Mitch Freya is a pretty tough guy. Him and his brother, real tough. So that's King of the Cage at Sault Ste. Marie at the Kuwaitan Casino. Also going on down in Lansing, my boy Phil the Voice told me he's going to be announcing at TWC 7. That's in Lansing. A few people I know are going to be fighting on that card. They usually put on a pretty good show, and if Phil's announcing, it's going to be a hype show. So make sure you check them out in Lansing, Michigan. I can't remember where that's located. Also, where I'm going to be, MXC. For Shane Martin and Glenn Bailey at Cedar Springs at the Cedar Rock Sportsplex. I'm sure they got a big card planned. They usually put on a heck of a show. I'm going to be down there with the microphone. Make sure you check that out. So a pretty big weekend for Michigan. 4 pretty big shows going on. I'm sure there's a couple others here and there that, if I've missed them, I'm sorry. And I do apologize for that. They're not always all advertised the best. Also, I guess I'd like to talk about last weekend now, where I was at. Well, there was 2 big fights going on. Ground and Pound 35 took place in Granville. I didn't see too much about the results, but it looked like people had a good time at the show, like they were talking about how they had went. That's all I noticed was on Facebook. I haven't found results. Ground and Pound 35. TXC took place at the Silverdome, which is a pretty big thing. It's the first ever MMA show there. I know Phil was announcing that. Now, I don't believe it was on the floor of the Silverdome, not like WrestleMania where they set the largest indoor attendance record back in the, 83 I guess it was. Or no, 86, I don't remember. It was in the 80s. Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant at that place. If that tells you anything. Back when it was still the WWF. I'm sure that was a great show. It looked like there was a couple of pretty big matchups on there. If you follow Detroit MMA real closely, you probably know who was on there and what happened there. I know that Joe Italian, the TXC, always put on a really good show. I've been a guest at several of their events, so congratulations to them on pulling off a good event, what was said to be a sellout at the Silverdome. Also, on the big stage, the UFC 138 took place in England over the weekend. Chris Lieben knocked the crap out of, Lieben's blood stopped the fight as he lost, and it was amazing after what Chris Lieben did to Wanderlei Silva for him to go in there and lose that fight like that. and there was pretty much like 5 rear naked chokes in a row on the rest of that card. So I don't really remember it, and it seems like whenever they go to England, it doesn't always produce the best card. So I'm not going to talk too much about the UFC, but this weekend is huge. UFC is going to make their debut on the Fox network. Now, and this is big for all of us in the business. This is the first time, you know, obviously there was a mistake made before. I think it was on CBS when there was the riot, which is actually kind of cool, but, you know, we're against that stuff, right? And the Diaz brothers went crazy on Strikeforce on CBS. But anyway, mixed martial arts is making its return to network TV this weekend. I believe it's from Anaheim. Of course, Cain Velasquez is going to be fighting Junior Dos Santos. They're going to put the heavyweight title up on network TV for free. It's a big deal. A lot of people are going to see that as a nice gesture. But, you know, the rest of the card, Ben Henderson and Clay Guida, I don't even think is supposed to be on TV, which is ridiculous. If I heard that correctly, you know, obviously, to borrow a phrase from my boy Bloodstain, this bald bozo is making a mistake and dropping the ball again. And why no women's fights, dude? You kidding? Whatever. Cub Swanson's on the card. DeMarcus Johnson, 2 good fighters. I'm sure that they'll come out with some wins. It's you know, if Clay Guida and Henderson's not going to be on TV, I don't understand. Hopefully that's a mistake. And I don't see Cain Velasquez losing this title fight either. Dos Santos is hard, but I don't see Velasquez losing the title just yet. And the heavyweight division is still pretty weak in the UFC. And unless Overeem comes in there, once Overeem comes over and cleans it up, that's what I mean. I mean, there's some good fighters. Don't get me wrong. But the Reem's going to come in there and clean house on that. I mean, there's nobody in there who's even close. And if you think they are, then you're mistaken. And I'm a fairly new fan, to be honest. But even I know that, man. Come on. You know, if the heavyweight division in the light heavyweight division, you know, used to be pretty even and used to be the 2 best divisions to watch. But now I'm liking these welterweights. I mean, the middleweight division's looking good. You got a lot of stuff going on now, so where the heavyweights need to step it up. And I just don't see anybody coming in there and beating Alistair Overeem. So, really, that's pretty weak. I guess that's enough on the UFC. I do have a little bit of an issue to touch on. You know, I'm not. Well, look, hold on. I did an event at the Treetops Resort this weekend. It was a great night. There were some new champions. A couple of champions defended their belts. There was 2 women's fights. The medical personnel was a team of physicians, or I'm sorry, a team of EMTs and, you know, people that can do that stuff. I thought that was pretty neat. There was 3 people administering, and 3 professionals, healthcare professionals, administering and making sure that everybody was taken care of medically and that all emergencies were fixed. And there were some horrific injuries at this fight. It was amazing the work that these guys did. And I thought it brought up a point to me that it's nice to see a team of physicians doing this, or a team of cage-side medical personnel, because when you have to take somebody into the back room and there's only one doctor, your show gets stalled, and it stops the flow of things, much like my stuttering just did 2 seconds ago. So seeing this teamwork, and also when there was something major going on, there's 3 people in there, and you know, it just really went smoothly, and I want to give those guys a big shout out for sure. They know who they are, and they didn't ask to be named, but usually people like that are pretty humble like that, and these guys did a heck of a job, and they should be commended greatly for it. One thing I want to touch on in the wake of what happened afterwards, there was a lot of miscommunication. I thought there was going to be an after party. I was advertising one in the cage, and then, like, I thought that it was supposed to be up the hill, and there was nothing up the hill, and there was a mistake, so people just pretty much went to their rooms, and I guess, you know, much like it always does after the fights, things got a little loud for the people who were already there, and the hotel, in my opinion, seemed to have overreacted. I went outside for a moment to have a drink of coffee. At 8:30 in the morning, I saw a bunch of police amassing. They told me I had to leave the hotel. And I was like, I just was in my room and quiet, but I guess. And so I accused them of being racists for lumping me into a category and saying that I am getting kicked out of the hotel. But blah, you know, it is what it is. It's always fun to be able to call somebody a racist because you don't get too much of a chance when you're just a Polish guy from Beulah. So I asked the hotel manager if he was a racist because he was kicking me out of a clean hotel room which I slept in early. But that brings me to the serious point. Fighter conduct. Now, in the last few days, as I got set to make this video, I researched this a little bit, talked to a few people in the professional game, talked to some people who, what their job is to, what they would call babysitting fighters after the fights in hotels. Nobody gets mad. I mean, there's some antics allowed. I mean, we're all personalities. You're blowing off steam. You basically get kicked right out of the venue and into a hotel half the time. Or if you do get to an after party, you're there for a half an hour, and then there's a bunch of booze at the hotel, and there's other patrons. Well, and there's just there's usually entourages, and everybody's, there's people celebrating wins, there's people grieving losses, and people talking loud, myself included. I have fun at the hotel after the fights. It's one of the perks of the job that I like, is mingling with the people and learning about these people whose names I call when they come out and try to win a fight. Not trying to discourage people being social or anything, or scold anyone, or name anyone at all, because there's no one at fault. It just brings up a point that, and as it increases, as your value as a fighter or a fight team increases, and you get put into situations where conduct becomes an issue. Now, I know King of the Cage has a conduct policy. It's very strict. If you do this, you're done. You don't get called back. And I know that the amateur guys do the same thing. I know Big John normally doesn't have to deal with this, and usually we get a hotel where it's pretty much accepted that we're going to be getting there at 1 in the morning. We've got all the rooms pretty much, and nobody's going to break anything if we're allowed to just hang out for a few hours, and that works out well. And when people don't stay at the venue, it works out pretty well. But as a fighter or as a coach, it's just a little bit, it becomes a matter of respect. Now, I respect all coaches and teams that I've worked with, honestly, regardless of conduct, regardless of someone being drunk or anything going on. It's just, I know that I've seen it from the promoter's standpoint. I've been the guy that's had to walk with Jeff Mahalik through a hotel and have to go, oh, okay, well, that's going to cost. Now, a company like King of the Cage, they'll just write a check. They'll pay for it, and then they just won't call you back. When it happens to a guy like Big John, well, you might lose a venue because it's not worth as much money to this particular place as it would be in a place where King of the Cage is working. And it's a little bit sad, and it is what it is. It's just going forward in the future, most people in this business are martial artists first and carry themselves respectfully. But they have fans, and we encourage the fans to drink. We encourage an after party. We tell people where our hotel is. We bring them back. It's part of what goes on. And I think a mixture of leniency, proper logistics when you're putting on a show as a promoter, if you have a place that you can put a bunch of people that's not on site, where maybe you know the hotel owner, or maybe it's a place where it's acceptable to be up late, then it's doable. And if it's not doable, then people have to rein it in. I mean, there's times where, nobody smokes cigarettes in the hotels anymore, and that's been a rule for not very long. It's just something that'll be easy to get used to, and it's unfortunate. One of the things we should all try to do is carry ourselves with respect at every time. And when we do slip up, we pick each other back up, and we let each other know that we're still part of the team. And this is what we're all working towards. A little cooperation goes a long way, Michigan, and I appreciate that. And I look forward to working with everyone that I work with, and working with more people in the future as an announcer and advocate of this sport. I do appreciate it. Thank you, and I'm out.
Ooh.